Okay, so in the previous one, I actually went through a bunch of pentatonic harmonies that you could, use as opposed to using the regular triads out of the, like this is A major pentatonic. You could, instead of using chords from A major, you can use all these different chords and shapes. Well, what we're going to do in this is I felt like maybe we should just do something musical instead with this very idea. So we're going to create a run that goes up and then falls downward using this, and only allow this kind of harmony in here. All the fourth bass, fifth bass, chordal, sus, whatever. So any of this will be allowed as our harmonic content. So we're not going to allow anything from A major like itself. We want to stay away from third-based thinking. So we want to do something like this that rises and falls, and we're not thinking in terms of thirds. It's sixes like traditional functional harmony, rising and falling. We're just going to create one run that rises and falls, and okay. And we're also gonna do maybe a formula like this: 1, 6, 2. Only in the form you can form a pentatonic harmony over it. So, or no thirds allowed on those chords that don't have them. So maybe we'll just do something like this. So the key to runs a lot of the time is repeating at the octave the same very thing you did. And it just kind of shifts from one octave to the next. So we'll just keep that. Maybe I'll do something like this on the bottom. Outline the A major chord. And then maybe we'll go to the 2 or the 6 chord, I'm sorry. And do the same exact thing over the top. The same exact upper part. So and then pause, just so it's not the same every time. So 1, and that's where you'd repeat at the shifting this to where it fits. Okay, so we have an upward based run that we can use. It just constantly, the run itself just shifts every octave. Same thing every octave. Now these are easier for me to create because I used to create like a lot of piano concerto type music when I was fascinated with that stuff, but I'm not really fascinated with that anymore. So we need to go downward, and maybe that's where we'll start on the implied 2 chord. We don't really have a 2 chord because we'll do something like this maybe. And that would set us nice up to go repeat that. Just these 4th and 5th based ideas. See, there's only 4ths and 5ths, no thirds. And the same thing keeps repeating at the octave. This is one of the keys to creating these rising and falling runs, is there's usually something that repeats at the octave. As again, we're going to do kind of a 1, 6, 1, 6, maybe a 2, sus 2, or, well, we're not sure. Maybe we'll just keep it open fifths at the 2, the implied 2. Okay. Move it down an octave. Repeating at the octave. Maybe do the same now on the implied 5. Since there's no third, it's implied 5. Do something like that. Okay. Just open fifths, open fifths, open fifth, octave. So very slowly. Going downward. ending on a very consonant note, the A major chord. It fits within the harmony of this. So I'm going to switch to the notation program. I'm actually going to put this stuff into notation so we can actually visually see it. And what we're going to do at the end, I'm going to play this back into the sequencer. I'm going to stick in the key signature and to where we can hear it as a player would play it. I certainly can't play this. So I'm going to step record the parts in. Okay. Really slow. Okay, so that's all I need, because remember it just kept repeating at the octave. So we'll copy and paste that until that part ends. So as I'm doing this, one thing to remember is that this does not necessarily have to apply to piano. We're just using that as our means to create our run. But you can orchestrate something like this too as well. I mean, these kind of techniques are very common. So definitely not common in rock and stuff, but you find this in like well, let's just say it doesn't have to be a piano part. Okay, so we have our run here, and the first part of it has such low too many ledger lines, so we're just gonna stick that in there, and we're gonna do the second here, and then do that. That way we don't want it very difficult to read. So, and notation playback is very stiff. That's why I'm going to sequence this at the end, and the piano sound honestly isn't that great. So in the notation program, so stick this about 220. And now if you did it in 16th notes, you wouldn't have to do this. I'm just doing it in eighths. It doesn't really matter. So we have a pentatonic run upwards. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to go ahead and write in the lower half. And this sometimes notation will drive me nuts because it won't allow you to place below a certain ledger line until you have to physically move it to it and now you can start using those lower ledger lines. I still love this program. So we're just gonna write in the part exactly as we did on the keyboard, and then the next part occurs on the F. And actually we're resting on the so that way there's this variation instead of doing the same thing you did in the first bar. So I will just go ahead and copy and paste it and transpose it to the proper location where it occurred that we played. And of course we're going to need to stick in a little treble clef indication there. There's too many ledger lines, so we'll just do it right here. Easy to read. Okay, now we're ready for part two. So, part two. Sorry, I have to keep moving this around. Every time I hit play, it looks like it's changed angles in the screen that I'm not looking. So I'm gonna go ahead, and there's two pianos like on top of each other, the notation program and my actual piano program. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose the treble clef again, step recorded in only once because remember it repeats at the octave. We'll go ahead and copy this, and this is the tedious part, is writing everything down and trying not to make mistakes as I'm trying to like talk about this stuff out loud, so being very careful with that. Just copy and transpose because it's repeating at the octave. So if you remember this about very extended runs and stuff, they usually often do repeat at the octave, or at least every other octave, the same thing. So it just makes it more consistent, and instead of randomness. And then sometimes randomness is good when you're looking for a chaotic effect. So I'm not saying that randomness is always bad. So I'm going to go ahead, too many ledger lines. I'm going to go ahead and fix that. Just transpose it and then tell it to play an octave higher. I always write out my ideas, and even though we started on the keyboard, I usually start with the notation. So now we've got the upper part. Okay. Yeah, it looks like I need to reposition this. Meh. Sorry about that. It's on a different screen, so sometimes I'm not seeing that it's shifted out of Once again, I'm going to actually play this into the sequence when we're done, and then hit pause, play it, record it. So the lower part, just displacing fifths and octaves. It's a very simple technique to use, so that's what we're going to keep. So we'll go ahead and write that in. This is mostly for a visual aid of what we just did. And then we're going to go ahead and take it to the bass clef, switch it over. And then fifths on the E root, just the implied 5, because we don't really have any thirds involved. So and the reason I chose this octave displacement like this is because this downward displacement, instead of the fifths, it just sounds more final, especially if we go back up. I'll show you in a second. Especially if we go back to A after that. It's almost like a finalizing move. We'll just end on an A major chord. That's part of the pentatonic harmony here. So, and then we'll just take that down an octave. Keep it. Okay. So it sounds finalized, especially with that displacement of E octave. I just thought of this as I reposition this. We can do a variation of the lower part instead of that those fifth displaced. We could follow this. E's the highest note, C sharp, B. Do something like that in octaves, and that would be a way to make a different version of this. You may have come up with it that way. I'll write that out really quick. And it's following that. Okay? It's really emphasizing those notes. So what we'll do is erase that. We're not going to use this. I'm just showing you could actually change it up and do this, something like this. And then if you do it in octaves like this, it'll really, really emphasize that upper run every other note part. Okay. And maybe we'll use the second time as with the fifth, and just don't do it every other time. So like this. We'll go ahead and copy that, paste it. This is just an alternative. We're going to go back to the original, so let me transpose that. That's super, super high. Oops, wrong direction. Wrong hotkey. Downward. We must go. So there we go. So it would just be a way to emphasize those notes in the run, but have a, it's a variation to the other one. Instead of two separate parts, it suddenly kind of emphasizes the notes of the run. But we're going to go ahead and switch it back to the normal one that uses separate parts instead of the emphasis, because, and then when I'm done with this, I'll go ahead and sequence it, and then hit pause on here and then sequence it, and then show you the playback result of a good piano as in humanistic playing. I can't play it this fast, so I'm a guitar player. So, and once again, I'm going to state this does not have to be a piano. Okay, you can easily orchestrate something like this. Well, if you have orchestration knowledge, it can be orchestrated. It could be used as a run in the middle of a piece. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and stop this right here and then go and sequence this real quick. I'm going to hit stop. Okay, the sequence is done. So added dynamics and also a bit of humanness to it because I played it in. So I think every once in a while I'm gonna do videos like this on specific scales and techniques. Like this is about the pentatonic harmony. So I just had to do, well, let's take something from it and make it one musical use you can do with this. And so we've done that. We've created a rising, falling run. Okay, and that could be used compositionally. And I'm going to do this from now on from almost any scale-based videos.